Scott's Geography Notebook. Do you want to try saying it?
Da, da, da.
Geomorphology. If we look at our little roots here, we've got our ology, and that obviously is going to be the study of, and we always put that at the end of the word, even though it's what we want to start our definition from. Okay, the next part that we want to look at is geo, and this is going to be referring to Earth, like geography or geology. Geo is going to be referring to Earth. That might look familiar as well, and morph is going to be discussing change. Now, as we're looking at our geomorphology, there's a few other ideas that we're going to be touching on. As we are looking at a little bit more in-depth discussion of this, we're going to be talking a little bit more about topography. When we're looking at topography, we're going to need to understand the idea of elevation. And as we're understanding elevation, we might as well learn a little bit about relief as well. And so we'll take a look at all three of those. A little bit more in depth of a definition than the study of changing Earth is going to be this guy here. The study of, and we'll stick with that one the same, the study of the origin and evolution of topographic and bathymetric physical features of the surface of the Earth. Wow. Okay, well, let's define a few of these things. When we're looking at our topographic items, a topographic is referring to the shape of the Earth. So if we have sea level, we're going to have some mountains that are going to be going up, and that's going to be our topographic features. Okay. Any change that we have in height of the landscape. So if we're starting at 0 for our elevation or sea level, then we're going to be going up. Or if we're going to be going down, maybe we have the surface of the water and we want to know what the landscape is like underneath that water. Those are going to be our bathymetric features that we see. So we want to know how the Earth is changing as it goes higher and why it goes higher, and other areas where it goes lower. So let's see the origin and evolution of these types of features, why we're going to have higher spots and why we're going to have lower spots. We want to understand those. So we want to understand the origin and the evolution of those physical features that either go up or go down that we see across the whole surface of the Earth. All right, well, let's take a look at these topographic and these bathymetric features. If we were to try to pinpoint this a little bit better, we would say topographic features are those features that are going to be going higher or lower in elevation. Higher or lower, higher or lower in elevation. Now, what's this elevation all about? Well, elevation is referring to the distance or the vertical distance, how high we're going from sea level. So the vertical distance above sea level. Okay, so we get elevation of a lot of different spots. We know the elevation of the highest peaks. We usually will know the elevation of our local areas. If we were still at the CRC, the parking lot there is at about 25 feet above sea level. Our highest peak in California, Mount Whitney, that's just over 14,000 feet above sea level. But then we have our bathymetric features, and that's where we're really going to be going lower. So our bathymetry, notice how it starts with bath, like water. That's how I remember it. The bathymetry is going to be looking at distance below sea level. I'm going to say below water level, because you can also look at the bathymetry that's going down into a lake. All right, so we know elevation is going to be going the height that we are, the vertical height we are above sea level. The topography or the topographic change is going to be going higher or lower, either going up or going down. Now, one other idea that I want to talk about as we're looking at elevation is going to be relief. Now, we did say that we have elevation, so the elevation at the ocean is going to be at 0 feet. I do the single quotation mark or I write feet there. If we're looking at California, our highest point is going to be Mount Whitney. And if I remember right, that's 14,495 feet. Right? Again, I do that little single quotation mark. Now, what if we needed to find what's called the relief? If we're needing to calculate the relief, wait, or is it relief? It certainly is one of those. If we're needing to figure out the relief, that's going to be the difference between the highest elevation and the lowest elevation. So if we're looking at California and we're wanting to figure out what our relief is across all of California, as a matter of fact, our lowest spot in California isn't necessarily at the ocean. It's actually going to be in Death Valley. And that's at about negative 200 feet. Okay? The FT also meaning feet. And so if we're needing to figure out the overall relief there, we're going to need to start at 0. We're going to go up to 14,495. We're going to go down to another 200. And so that difference that we see in between those, we would need to add this plus this. Usually we end up subtracting, but in this case, it's going to be 14,695 feet of relief. Okay, so the topographic differences are really going to be helping us see where we have elevation or where we're going down below sea level. If we're going to be going vertically above sea level, we're going to be seeing different elevations. When we're trying to calculate our local relief, then what we're wanting to do is figure out the difference between the high and the low. We can look at relief in terms of the entire state of California and calculate that. We can look at the local relief within the Sacramento area. Usually we're going to be finding that right there at the Sacramento River is our lowest elevation, and then we move higher away from there, usually about 40 feet above that. So that difference again between 0 and 40 is going to be 40 foot. If we were looking in a more mountainous area, perhaps in Lake Tahoe, we might be looking at where the lake level is and then the highest mountains that we have around that. And if we're wanting to calculate those, then we just need to know what the elevation is at that ocean and then the elevation, or not at the ocean, but at the lake level and then the elevation at our highest points.